1929, a 15-year-old French girl crosses the river on a ferry bound for the capital of colonial Vietnam. The girl's school holidays are over and she has to go back to study at the Saigon girls' school. She is dressed in an ordinary dress and wears a man's hat, which the girl likes very much, because it makes her stand out from the crowd. The girl spent the holidays in Sadek with her mother and two brothers, in what she thought was a terrible house. Her rejection is not caused by a half-empty house and poor existence, but by relationships within the family. Before leaving, the girl's older brother, the impudent and self-confident Pierre, takes most of the dinner for himself, leaving the leftovers for her and her younger brother, the soft and modest Paul. The girl is angry that she cannot change something in the household, because her mother does not help her, because Pierre is her favorite. He smokes opium and often takes his mother's poorly hidden money from her tiny teacher's salary, thus depriving the family of a chance to get out of poverty. Observing the nearby swamps and rice farms, the girl remembers yesterday's quarrel with Pierre. She puts her hands on the handrail and puts her foot on the lower rail in her favorite pose. A big expensive black car is parked behind on the deck. The passenger door opens and a neat young Chinese man dressed in an expensive suit comes out to smoke. A little nervous, he approaches the girl and offers a cigarette. She refuses, and then Chinese admires her original man's hat and continues to look for topics to talk about. Without long introductions, the girl immediately asks who her interlocutor is, to which he happily answers. The girl learns that he is Chinese, from a wealthy minority that owns all the housing in the colony. After arriving ashore, he offers to give the girl a ride to Saigon, and she accepts. In the car, the Chinese man cannot take his eyes off the girl and her beauty and looks at her as much as decency allows. He does not need to follow the road, because the car is driven by his own driver. She says that she is already 17 years old and will soon finish school. And the Chinese man says his real age. He is 32 and he owes all his rich life to his father, who has a big business here. The only thing that upsets the Chinese is that after the death of his mother, his father does not get out of bed, smokes a lot, hardly eats and conducts all his affairs from the sofa. Overcoming his shame, the Chinese gently touches the girl's hand, and she does not resist it. Then he squeezes her hand with his palm, which makes the girl feel strange emotions and close her eyes. Holding hands, they continue to drive towards the girl's school. There, the Chinese man removes his hand, which by this moment was already somewhere above the knee of the blushing girl. The driver helps her out, then the girl says goodbye to the Chinese man and goes to the school. The next day, while walking around the school, the girl notices a familiar black car. Out of curiosity, she comes closer and sees a Chinese man who is watching her, and who probably ended up here not by chance. The girl leaves a trace of a kiss on the car window and runs away. On one of her free days, after lunch, the girl decides to spend time with the Chinese. So she leaves the school, where today no one will notice her absence. The girl goes outside, gets into a black car, and drives with the Chinese towards the city center. They come to Chinatown to spend time in one of the houses. It is owned by the Chinese father, and his son jokingly calls this place a bachelor's nest. The girl immediately asks how many mistresses have been here, which confuses the Chinese. If the girl knows why she agreed to come here, the Chinese asks if she would have done it with any other man, or is the girl's choice not random. She says she doesn't know because she's never done it and can't tell the difference. The Chinese man admits that he is afraid of falling in love with a girl and offers to go out for a walk, and they will come here some other time, but she wants to stay and says directly about it. The girl does not demand that the Chinese man love her and asks to do with her what he usually does with the girls in this room. The Chinese man is shy because she is quite young for him, so the girl takes the initiative into her own hands. After intimacy, the girl talks about her relatives, as well as her dream of becoming a writer. In her novels, the girl would describe her family and the burden of living in poverty, because after the death of her father, her mother lost all the family savings, and the older brother Pierre steals the last to buy opium. The Chinese says that he knows from the servants about all the troubles of her family and about the addiction of Pierre, who is constantly seen in the opium den. The Chinese man wonders if the girl would go with him if he were just as poor, and she replies that she likes the Chinese man the way he is. The girl asks for intimacy again and again, and the Chinese obediently fulfills her wishes. There is almost no sunlight in this house, and right outside the door is a market. to the noise of which they make love every time. In the evening, they eat at a restaurant, and when the Chinese man pays the bill, the girl freezes in surprise, because on the table she sees bills the size of her mother's monthly salary. Days pass, and the girl continues to meet the Chinese man in his apartment. Once in a restaurant, he talks about his future marriage with a girl he doesn't even know. She is a rich heiress, so their parents decided a long time ago to tie the family capitals together in this way. The Chinese man's fate is already decided, and the girl understands that they cannot have a common future because the ancient tradition is not violated here. The Chinese admits that he has never worked and is very lazy, so he cannot even imagine how he would survive in poverty. He brings the girl to Sadek, where she spends the weekend with her family. The mother finds out about the girl's new acquaintance and scolds her for leaving the school at nights, and Pierre calls her a whore. They do not believe that the Chinese man is just a friend and a good person, so the girl offers him to arrange an evening together in a restaurant, and he agrees. During dinner, the Chinese man is kind and does not limit the girl's family, so Pierre immediately orders a lot of expensive alcohol and even more food. While the girl and her family eat with impudence and great joy, the Chinese man tells about his family's history. But no one listens. Smiling, the Chinese pays the huge bill and even supports Pierre's initiative to go to a nearby club to dance. There, the Chinese again pays for the alcohol, but the girl goes to dance with her younger brother Paul. Understanding all the insolence, the educated Chinese man remains polite until the end of the evening. Never having danced with a girl, after saying goodbye to her family, the girl comes with a Chinese man to his bachelor's house. He is angry because today he was used as a wallet without even trying to be respectful. He silently slaps the girl, tears off her underwear, and without kisses or foreplay, uses her just as rudely as if she were his inanimate object. Then the girl asks how much the same services cost in a brothel, because her mother needs 500 piasters. The Chinese immediately counts the required amount and in despair throws cash on the table. The next day, the mother comes to the school, receives money from the girl, and for this she agrees with the principal about complete freedom of attendance at the educational institution for her daughter. For the girl, the school becomes a hotel, where rumors about her debauchery spread very quickly among the staff and students. Teachers and peers stop talking to the girl because of her suspicious night walks and dates, because among Europeans it is considered shameful to sleep with a Chinese. In the evening, he admits that he fears the day when the girl will be forced to return to France, and asks if she is still in Saigon for a long time. The girl does not know this, because her mother finds it difficult to live even with 2 sons, and her daughter's departure to France could make her life easier. Wanting to help, the Chinese man gives the girl his late mother's family ring. Later, he tells his father about his love and desire to marry a French woman, but his request is rejected. The father reminds that without his money he is nothing, so he cannot give up a rich life for the sake of a girl. He admits to the girl that he cannot live at the will of his father, and she takes it calmly, reminding him that she does not love him and will leave soon anyway. And then the girl tells how her family became poor and outcasts among the Europeans in Sadek. After the death of her husband, her mother invested all her money in fertile land and wanted to engage in agriculture, but she was deceived by the locals by selling the plot, which was soon flooded with salt water. Later, the girl tells the Chinese man that she needs money again, and he asks her to say out loud the following words: "I thought of your money the moment I saw you on the ferry." The girl repeats what was said, but this method does not convince the Chinese man to fall out of love with her. He admits to the girl that he did not know the suffering before he met her, and he feels powerless, almost dead, because he is unable to change something in his fate and future marriage with a rich stranger. Later, the girl comes to her family in Sadek and gives her mother a ring given by a Chinese, and for this Pierre again calls her a whore. Returning to the bachelor's house, the girl finds the Chinese in a depressed state. He smokes opium and continues to convince himself that he has fallen out of love with the girl and no longer has any desire for her. The Chinese man says that he will die of love for the girl because the wedding is already next Friday, and soon they will part forever. The girl demands to fulfill the last promise of the Chinese man, to meet here again after the ceremony. The day of the wedding comes, and the girl goes to see the lavish celebration. The Chinese man makes eye contact with the girl and then walks with the bride to the altar. Returning to Sadek, the girl learns from her mother that before the wedding, The Chinese paid all of Pierre's debts in the smoking room and bought him a ticket to France. The mother underestimated the Chinese, and she is ashamed of that evening in the restaurant with him. The mother asks if only money was the reason for the girl's relationship with the Chinese and receives an affirmative answer. Later, the girl arrives at the bachelor's house and discovers that her lover has taken all his things. The girl waits for him all day, but in vain, and at night she leaves the house. The day of her return to France comes, and the girl gets on the steamer. Paul and her mother see her off as they stand on the pier, but they don't notice her crying. The girl puts her hands on the railing and puts her foot on the lower fence. Just like the day she met the Chinese man on the ferry, she examines the pier more and more widely, because the steamer has already started to move. And suddenly she sees the same big black car parked behind one of the buildings. Suppressed by his powerlessness, the Chinese man came to say goodbye, and the girl feels his gaze. She looks toward the car and its passenger until the shore disappears over the horizon. At night, she cries from the realization that she loved the Chinese man. But she could not understand this in the complete absence of experience. Many years later, the Chinese man comes to Paris with his wife. He finds out the girl's phone number because now she is a famous writer and hears her voice. It is difficult for him to say something, but he admits nothing has changed. He still loves the girl and will love her until the end of his days. Thank you for watching. Now I'm looking for your favorite genre, so if you like the retelling of the erotic drama The Lover, please write about it in the comments. This will help me select similar films for future retellings.